Are you cutting that tree down? Gonna be removing an Osage today. It's not that much. I'm on some family property, but I just kind of wanted to show my process of what you can do with a truck and a chainsaw. I'm just gonna be cutting it and then roping it and then dragging it to a burn pile. It's not that crazy, but I haven't been on here in a while and I thought I'd show you some stuff. Almost immediately after I cut these Osage stumps, I'm going to put this chemical called Tordon on top of them, and that'll be like a retardant for any kind of growth that comes up afterwards if I can't stump grind it immediately, so you don't get a bunch of suckers and sprouts and all kinds of mess. I'll kind of show you what that looks like. If you have the possibility, find a local arborist store that is close to you. For example, myself, I'm really close to Forest Lytle. I can just hop in there and grab stuff that I need. I love it there. I love supporting local businesses. So this is the, just kidding, don't do that. This is an herbicide, so it's hazardous. It comes with a nozzle. You can apply it liberally. Make sure that you read the instructions and only do something if you're comfortable with it and you read up on it and you know all the safety implications that go along with that. I'm not advising you to use any chemicals on stuff. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. You want to make sure that if you're putting this stuff down, it's not next to anything else that you want to live. In this case, it's not really that close to anything else. It's not in jeopardy. So I'll cut these stumps and I'll put that on there and I'll kind of show you the process. Well, I guess you don't make a YouTube video for a week and you just forget everything you know. It was kind of cool. It's all little Osage, but they're all gross and tied together, so I just set them all up. Look at the wedge, friends, on the small tree. The old BBR special. Cut it at a slant. See how I was able to get that whole wedge in there on that small diameter tree? Yeah, we were kind of clustered, but it all went over pretty good. Now I'll just take the pickup and I'll drag all these trees over there. It's been a while since I've had something like that happen. So I noticed that my chain wasn't cutting very good. I think I hit something in that last tree, probably some dirt or something like that. I don't know. It's not horrible, but some of the corners are knocked off. So I'm just gonna take a couple seconds and tidy it up. And I just like to sharpen on the tailgate like this. Just like this. Good one. You don't want concave. You don't want convex. You want a straight. You want a straight line on your top plate. The main thing that I find that helps is keeping all your angles level and what you want. You can fluctuate forward and back, but you want to really keep the same level. You want to keep this level as possible up and down, but forward and back can kind of forward and back can kind of change depending on the angle of the tooth you want. And if you're trying to get like chipped part of the tooth off to come down, you can be more blunt with it and then just work it back to the angle you want. But you really don't want any fluctuation this way for your final strokes. Now you can come in a little heavy in the beginning if you want to make your C bigger, but I generally like to stay level during the duration of the filing. All right, well, I feel good about it now. We're gonna be cutting down a dead tree, and I kind of wanted to go over some rigging implements if you have to put a rope in a tree. This tree is leaning the opposite way of where we want it to go. So I'm gonna use ropes and some rigging techniques and showcase some things that I like to use, different implements that you can use to make a floating anchor point, because sometimes you don't always have something to pull on that's right where you need it. So I'm gonna kind of go over the situation and show that to you guys. But first I'm gonna make sure gas and oil on this fuel pig here, the 500i. So one thing that's been super consistent for me is DGP. I've had some questions about it. It's been super consistent. Boom! I really like running this oil. Yeah, it's lovely. Just fill her up. Just kidding. I don't know if I'm coming or going. So if you ever get this little bit of oil on the bar, if it starts running like that for you, cool thing you can do, it's not wasted, it's not going anywhere. All you can do is you just find something and you set up against it, and the bar oil will run all the way down, and you're not out any oil. All right, and that is what a halfway decent sharpened chain should look like. So we're gonna be setting up a floating anchor between these two trees, and that's our dead guy. So it is leaning back and not towards us. I'm gonna put a rope in it, and I'm gonna set up a floating anchor between these two trees. It's absolutely not necessary. We could just anchor off of one of these trees, but you don't always have that availability. Sometimes you need to build a floating anchor. I've been in situations like that, and there's nothing to go off of, and you just have to pull the bunny rabbit out of a hat because you don't have anything to go off of. So you need to use multiple different points and secure a rigging point in the middle of that. I have some tools that everybody else has and some that people might not. So I'll show a couple different ways you can use tools that are probably on your truck to accomplish the same thing. The cool thing about rigging is it's really limited to your imagination. Usually less is more, but there are some cases where you just don't have that option. Like if there's no points between your truck and the backyard of something, sometimes you have to become your own engineer. You can over rig, and I just wanted to showcase some things that you might not have thought about to set up a floating anchor, or to orientate some rigging devices that when I saw them, they were news to me, so I just thought I'd share them with you. If you don't have any way to anchor around a tree, you can this kind of blew my mind when I saw this, using rings but not in a rigging point. using rings, but as an anchor, and setting it as a choker around the tree, and then terminating with a knot over here if you need it that way. A lot of our gear is multi-use, but if you're limited to the knowledge that you have, you're not going to know all those additional uses. And to a lot of people, this might be simple rigging stuff, but when I didn't know and I could have known, these are like little light bulb things for me. So I'm happy to share them with you. And if you find this kind of stuff useful, put it down in the comments. Okay, so here we've got 3 different things that could potentially be used as a floating anchor. If you don't have any of these implements, you can always use an alpine butterfly. Also, you can always girth hitch the floating anchor line around something and position it where you need it. You can do a lot with a limited amount of gear. I'm going to set up a 5-to-1 to pull this thing over. So this side terminates on my rigging line. I'm going to go ahead and run that side out to the tree and then terminate the end of the 5-to-1 on the floating anchor point. Now what we're going to do is set a line in this dead tree right here. You want the line to be high enough to get leverage over the face cut and back cut to make it tip, but you don't want to be too high that you break the top out and then send the spar back. Hopefully we don't do that today. There's a balance. You have to work within your comfort zone. And this is an open field. There's not targets and structures and stuff like that. I really feel that it's important to practice technical stuff in a scenario where nothing can get hurt, so you have more information when you go into a situation that is sketchy. All right, I've got a rig line set in this tree. I'm going to take it back to the 5-to-1 and preload it with the proportionate amount of tension that I believe is necessary. I believe it's important to have pre-tension on a back leaner so when you're cutting it doesn't sit back. With this 5-to-1 that I already have preset up, all I do is take 7 wraps around my rig line and put it back on the carabiner, and then it's good to go. So what I'll do now is I'll take the prusik that's at the end of my 5-to-1 and I'll set it on the rig line. And all I'm doing is taking 7 wraps in a counterclockwise direction. So just like that. Take it back. There you go. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, that should hold. That will hold. And then I'll take and I'll get all the slack out of it. If we have any slipping, what I'll do is I'll take behind this prusik and I'll spike it with an alpine butterfly, and then I'll just put that in there for whatever. Okay, cool. So now we're all pretty set up to load our 5-to-1. How I like to have my stuff staged is all the way out, so now all I have to do is come to this 5-to-1 and get all the slack that I can. It's important as I'm pulling, I'm watching the crown of the tree. A lot of times what I'll do if I can't pull anymore is I'll just make a bowline on a bite, and that'll give me 2 handles that I can use that you can just work it back. And it's a little bit easier to do with the handles. Notice that as I'm pulling with my 5-to-1, it's not really slipping. Now, if you look at the system we created, we've got a perfectly floated middle of the way anchor point that can be used to establish a pulling angle to your desired effect for when you have to be dead nuts. This tree doesn't have to be exactly dead nuts, but it helps to practice for scenarios where it does have to be. Here we've got our rigging hub going to our 5-to-1, going to our rigging line that's in the dead tree. those are just some things I thought I would share. I've been feeling kind of on YouTube, I've said it before, but it's just so saturated. And if I'm coming here and I'm spending time here and I'm editing these videos, I really want to show what I'm working on. I don't want to seem like I'm trying to portray myself being something that I'm not, because I see that a lot, and I just don't want to be another drop in the bucket creator that, I don't know. I want this channel to have value. I want a sense of community. I'm not just going to be throwing stuff up on here to make myself look good. And that's not, in my belief, how YouTube should be used. I like the fact that we can come together and learn and create and just lift each other up. So I want to do that stuff going forward. If you notice in that footage, I'm taking every opportunity I can to look up, because it's very dead. And every time you hit the tree or your saw vibrates in the tree, you have the potential to break one of those dead limbs off. And your body positioning is very important. I positioned myself in the most advantageous way that I could, that if something cracked off, that I could maybe miss it, because you could get hit if something breaks off, but you want to mitigate the risk and put yourself in the best advantage possible. And that's why I was kind of standing in front of my face cut, because of the way the limbs were angled. It's kind of hard to see if you're not up under the tree looking at it, but every tree is different. And that's been my experience. That's what people with real experience will tell you. These trees are puzzles, and not every single one is the same. I mean, they all get 3 cuts, but everyone is different. Everyone has a little bit different fibers, a little bit different environment, and that's what's challenging, and that's what I love about this game. Well, it's not a game, but you got to follow the rules to put yourself in the best spot possible. And trust your gut. Don't do anything that is out of your comfort zone. And I'm not preaching at you. I'm just sharing my thoughts. My goal is to constantly grow and evolve and check my work. Make sure what I'm doing is really efficient, because you can buy all this crap and, you know, you can set up 10,000 different things. And the main goal is to really be efficient too, because it's got to make money to make sense, right? You can't spend all day on one tree unless it's bid that way. I really enjoyed making this one for you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for staying on the channel. Thanks for the subscriptions. Thanks for thumbing things up. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to see what comes in the future. I just love how you can use ropes and simple machines, pulleys, you know, to create mechanical advantage. I pulled that thing over with like 4 inches of crappy hinge. I mean, it's really impressive what one person can do with rope and, you know, 3 cuts. And I'm constantly learning and trying to evolve, and I just want to share and document the process. I don't want to try to make myself look good, or it's a fine line, because YouTube is kind of a little ego thing, but I don't want to portray it as that way. Like, I'm not main character energy. I just want to share my cutting journey and my arborist journey. And, you know, I don't know. I don't even know what the words mean. I guess I could be an arborist. I don't know. Tree guy. I like tree guy. There's some cool stuff coming up, so stay tuned.